where we explore the clinical and non-clinical side of behavioral health here in Los Angeles. I am your host, Jennique Mason, founder of Phoenix Transformative, a behavioral health consulting and concierge care management practice supporting individuals and families navigating mental health, eating disorder, substance use, and complex life transitions. Through Phoenix Transformative, we provide behavioral health consulting, treatment planning and placement support, care coordination, and high-touch concierge services designed to help clients and families navigate the often overwhelming realities of treatment, recovery, and reintegration. Each episode, we sit down with clinicians, treatment professionals, and leaders in the field to talk about what's really happening in behavioral health, from treatment trends and clinical insight to the real-world challenges clients and families face. Today's guest is Connor Gray, founder and primary recovery guide at Eric's House Recovery, an all-male sober living home in West LA. Connor's a Pepperdine grad and has been part of the recovery community in Southern California since 2015. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me, Jennique.
Eric's House is specifically named for a young man, Eric, who passed away, and the mission is built around guiding young men into the journey of recovery. So on that note, Connor, I think that there's something really special about founders in this space who've built their services directly out of their own recovery capital. I would love to hear a little bit about your own recovery journey if you're comfortable speaking on that.
Totally. Well, the recovery journey mostly starts with a level of intervention. When I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
I am one of the Utah teenagers. That,
Okay.
I was off to a fast start at an early age.
Yes.
And my family intervened, and a couple of large gentlemen picked me up in the middle of the night.
This is old school.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, it was just so like commonplace, and it wasn't even talked about how like awful and abusive it was.
Unfortunately, I've heard the story before that other young guys have gone through.
Totally. And
Yeah.
back in the day, it was just like, this is what happens when you party too much. And now it's sort of like, all right, maybe that wasn't the best approach to do with the teenager.
It's pretty aggressive and
yeah.
it's scary.
Yeah. And especially after like coming out to Los Angeles and seeing like, Visions and Key and Ascend and all these
Yes.
wonderful teen programs. I wonder what my life would have looked like if I had taken a different route. But that wasn't my story. I was picked up and handcuffed and taken to the woods in the middle of Utah.
Jesus.
I spent a year in Utah. The whole time I was just working to try and figure out how I could get back to Chicago.
Yeah.
How
long were you there?
I was there for a year.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So, well, I did 75 days in wilderness, and then I did about 10 months at a therapeutic boarding school.
Okay. Yeah, which I've spoken. Actually, I was chatting with, shout out to Ascend yesterday. I was chatting with Seamus.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was kind of asking him, what is the track like for adolescents once they complete treatment?
Yeah.
And he was mentioning that a lot of them do attend therapeutic boarding schools, which I don't really know very much about.
I think there's a big split between, there are some really great programs that are kind of harder to find and definitely a smaller census. And then there are big ones like Discovery Ranch and all the ones that have been in the news, Provo Canyon, for being sort of like, abusive
Yes.
mill type settings. But I was actually lucky. I went to a pretty high achieving therapeutic boarding school. It was called the Oakley School.
Okay.
It was owned by the Aspen Corporation, which is owned by Bain Capital. So it was on the higher end.
Yes.
And everybody who was there had to earn their way into it with psych testing and IQ testing. And, it was actually kind of cool. Like we had AP classes.
Oh, wow.
We had sports, I like wrestled. And,
Okay. Extracurriculars.
Yeah, I got like 55 days of skiing in that winter. So it wasn't all bad.
Yeah. I mean, that part of it sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, but the whole time I was just like, I just want to be home. Like I want to be with my family. I want to be with my friends.
Miss your family a lot. How old were you?
I was 16 when I went and 17 when I came back home. Yeah. But the two things that place did was it probably saved me from worse consequences of more arrests and dangerous behavior. I was drinking and driving a lot. I was doing and selling a
too.
lot of drugs. And so it might have saved me from worse consequences. And it gave me sort of a crash course in what else was out there. I met kids from California and Texas and
Yeah.
Florida who were doing pharmaceuticals and
Mm-hmm.
talking about ecstasy and cocaine. And so when I came back to where I'm from, which is Chicago, I can't, my friends were stoked to have me. And I said, guys, we've been doing it wrong.
I've got some new intel.
Yeah, selling Adderall and smoking weed and selling weed is great, but I've heard about this other stuff. So that's what kind of led to the next stage of my drug use, which was like a lot of experimentation with
Yes.
other things. And that continued until I was about 19. When I was 19, I was starting to hit a new bottom in terms of the amount of drugs that I was using and how dependent I was on them. I was really hopelessly addicted to benzos.
I mean, that's, I think, one of the most difficult ones to stop using and get off of. The withdrawal process is really, really, really challenging.
It's hellish. You feel so terrible. And I didn't even know, like, I didn't even know what to expect when I stopped taking it. So from there, I ended up at the Menninger Institute in Houston. That led me from, I got to Menninger. I started rebuilding, feeling better. The thing about the unit that I was on, it was called the young adult adolescent unit.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how old were you when you were there?
I was 19.
Okay.
So it was
Got
18 to 30. And something that is really wonderful about high functioning psych places or rehabs, IOPs, is for someone like me who's a pretty isolated, hopeless drug user, it puts you back into a milieu and re-socializes you with people my age who were on death's doorstep like I was.
It's huge.
But there was the kinship and the bonding and the fellowship that you feel, and
community.
And it made me once again think that maybe there was a life out there for me. I had been suicidally depressed for a really long time. I didn't know how to get off drugs, and I started to get better. And like 50 days into my stay, I told my parents, like, I feel a lot better. I'm ready to come home.
Yeah.
My parents told me, you can go anywhere in the world, but you cannot come back to Chicago.
Oh, that's so hard.
I always, the thing is, like, I always wanted to go back home because it was familiar. And at least, like, I say this in my leads, like, I had a terrible reputation in Chicago. People did not like me. I was a bad guy, but at least I was someone, going to where I eventually ended up, which was Los Angeles. I was like, I don't know anyone. But that was
starting over.
That was kind of the appeal of it, was like, if there's going to be anywhere that I could try and rebuild my life, why not Los Angeles?
I agree. Yeah. I came here for the recovery community. I'm from Northern California.
Right.
I grew up in San Jose, and during I got sober in 2013, and I had a great recovery community up until COVID.
Sure.
And then once COVID hit, everyone dispersed and disbanded, like happened in so many places.
Yeah.
And I totally lost my community. And then I started kind of becoming aware of how strong the recovery community is here in Los Angeles. And that's what initially brought me here. Yeah.
And it makes it worthwhile to stick around, which I eventually found.
Yes.
So that's how I ended up in Los Angeles. That was almost 12 years ago. I was kind of in and out for a little while, and in 2016, I was on a Vespa scooter going down Wilshire, and I got hit by a car and I broke my back.
Oh, my God.
So that started my foray into opiate addiction.
Yes.
And by 2017, I was 140 pounds. I was strung out, and I was also on the tail end of a manic episode. And I crashed my car and I got a DUI, and I ended up in rehab in Malibu.
Not a bad place to end up.
No, I mean, like, I like woke up in this beautiful ranch in Malibu, like, because I was still kind of in and out, dissociating a little bit, and like I came to, and I'm like, where am I? It felt like a dream, and that place like nursed me back to health. From 2017 to 2019, I stayed sober. I like to say I stayed sober on fear and fellowship.
Mm-hmm. That's accurate.
Yeah, I was afraid of the consequences and how bad it was, but
Yes.
and I also like met enough people and young people who were sober, and I liked being around that. But I had no interest in earning my seat. I had no interest in working a program. I just wanted to show up and have people see me show up and bring the cake and have a commitment like that
Yeah.
and get the gold star.
Right. Whatever works.
Yeah,
Whatever brings you in.
it got me 2 years, and I took a 2-year cake at a big meeting in Westlake Village. There was like 250 people there,
Oh, big meeting.
and I blew out the candles, and I looked out at the crowd, and the first thing that went through my head was, "I'm not done yet." And I just said, "Thank you for my life," and I got off stage, and an hour and a half later, I was drunk.
Yep.
And it took me 9 months to get back, and then I got sober again on 02/02/2020, so right before the pandemic.
Whoa.
Yeah, the little palindrome action.
You can't plan that.
No,
That
no.
is trippy and really cool.
Yeah, I went back to the same rehab in Malibu, and they're like, "What's your sobriety date?" And I was like, "Here's the last day I remember." And they're like, "Okay, your sobriety date is this."
And that was it.
Figured it out a couple of days later, like, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool." Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I got sober right before the world shut down, February 2020.
1 month before, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a trip, but that's kind of been my journey. And then the
Wow.
last 6+ years have just been trying to work the program and do things differently and take advice from other people who know better than me. And the whole like saying yes to you and saying no to me. And it's been the greatest thing I've ever done. And it's been wonderful.
Well, that is so powerful, and I really appreciate you sharing so candidly about that. And I can see how all the young men that you get to serve at Eric's house, they can relate to you,
Totally.
you
Yeah.
know, and that is a gift, right? I wanted to ask you, what gap did you see that made you want to help start Eric's house recovery specifically? Because I know you're the founder or one of the founders. You have a partner.
John O'Brien and I are the
Yes.
two co-founders.
Okay,
We
thank
founded
you.
it together. We figured two heads is better than one.
Mhm.
He is much better than I am at certain things, and I have some strengths that he doesn't
It's a
possess.
partnership.
Yeah, it's symbiotic and it's wonderful, and he's the best.
Mhm.
The gaps that we were
Yes.
trying to address was I came from a background of my family thinking that if they spent more money and
Mhm.
paid more money, then I would have a higher chance of success.
Right. I think that's a common misconception.
Common misconception. And my type of my archetype probably shouldn't end up in the co-ed heavy dual diagnosis places that I was ending up in, because those places, they're great with like med management and they'll cook for you and do all these things that I didn't really need.
Right.
But my family felt better knowing that they were paying $12,000 a month to just, I'm taking good care of him in this way.
It gave them a sense of security.
For sure.
Mhm.
And felt like they were providing me with the best chance possible. Whereas like, they would get the like reverse sticker shock when they heard from, I looked at some places that were all male, 12-step based, and they're like, it's $3,000 a month. Did it not provide you with anything? And so I think I was robbed of an experience of being in a house like the one that we run, because my family was turned off from the idea of like, well, they must not do a very good job if that's what they're charging.
Wow.
So we took that mindset of like, we want to provide the lowest cost possible to make it accessible to everybody.
It's amazing.
And we want to really emphasize outcomes over incomes as much as we possibly can.
I love that.
And we figured like, in having an affordable price point where people not only could afford to be there for 1 month, but could stay longer term, versus somewhere where, every single month the family is looking at it like, does he really still need this?
Right.
It's a lot.
They're feeling the financial
way more
pressure.
at 12,000 a month than families are at the 1,500 level that we have, or the 3,000.
They can commit for longer term.
And that's really what we wanted. We wanted people, we wanted to create a house where guys were comfortable enough that they weren't trying to get out as soon as possible. Because I've been in those settings where everybody's just talking about like, what are we going to do to get the heck out of here? And we didn't want that. We wanted people to be comfortable enough to stay as long as they wanted. And we wanted it to be affordable enough where they could feasibly do so.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been the mission. The real gap that we have tried to address is in culture and continuity that shout out to Blackburn Recovery and
Yes.
Spear Recovery, following what those guys did in creating this like bond and this brotherhood of people who went through that house,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted that, and so that's what we set out to do. And I'd confidently say like that is what we do really well nowadays, is that like brotherhood and the fondness and the loyalty to the Eric's House brand that so many guys have, and it's been wonderful. It really has.
That's so true. I mean, I met someone just a couple weeks ago who I didn't know went through Eric's
Mhm.
house, right? And he'd been there for 5 years, and we had just met, and he totally just opened up to me and told me all about his experience and how much he loved being there and how it changed his life. And that's not something you can manufacture. It's just it's a real experience that guys get
Sure.
from being there with you,
Mhm.
and that's really, really special.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'll say about it is in being in those places that the old line of like over promising and under delivering. I don't really recommend places that I went to other people because of that.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
my family was promised the moon, because they were like, what we want to do is like we want to under promise and over deliver, so that we
That's
have
it.
people like that who talk to strangers about like how wonderful their experience was,
Yeah.
rather than like, oh yeah, I paid all this money and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. Like, we never wanted to be in those conversations, and I think luckily we don't end up in many of them.
And when did you open?
We opened in March of 2021.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so we're 5, 6 years out now.
Mhm.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is awesome. Okay. So the house is named after Eric.
Mhm.
What was it about his story that shaped the decision to focus specifically on young men?
So Eric was John's best friend who passed away when John had 18 months sober. John's been sober for 12 years, so this was a while ago. And when Eric passed away, he was sort of this tipping point of, I'm either going to lean really hard into my recovery and I'm going to work in this field and this is going to become my life, or I'm going to kind of work myself out of my recovery and focus on things that aren't serving isn't helping me or helping other people.
Yeah.
And when Eric died, he took the approach of, I'm going to double down on all this stuff and make this my mission in my life, and he did. And he has worked in the field, you know, ARC, Transcend, startup, and then starting Eric's House with me. And if it wasn't for Eric dying, he might not have ended up where he's ended up. So that was why he wanted to name it after Eric. Eric is just like a figurehead for all of the young men who might have been really well served by a place like what we do, but never got the chance to experience it. My best friend passed away when I had 6 months sober. And so what John and I have done is we decided we're going to start like totaling up the amount of scholarshiping that we do, and
Wow.
we're going to do it in their names. We're going to do it in Eric's name. Like, you'll have the Eric Shingarev scholarship bed, you'll have the Nick Fawn scholarship bed, and to date, we've done over $100,000 of scholarshiping in the names of these two people who are really like, they're just the face of it. It could be anyone.
Wow.
We all have that story of the person who really meant a lot that we lost, and
I have a few.
yeah, and we always try and make Eric and Nick like super proud, and I think they would be.
Oh, that's wow. I didn't even know about the scholarship fund, Connor. That's incredible. What might be different about early recovery for a guy in his 20s versus someone coming in later in life? And I think at Eric's house, the kind of the age group you serve, late teens to 30s, I'm kind of assuming.
Well, I'll start by addressing that.
Okay.
We cluster in the mid 20s with a lot of like 18 to 25-year-olds, but we also do get 45s. Like, we got a guy who's
Okay.
62.
Mhm.
It's just more common, I think, for people to just the total population of people looking to get help and go to a place like ours is higher for
Yes.
18 to 30-year-olds. Um, I would say the difference is there is a large generational divide and a difference between what somebody in their late 30s or 40s kind of grew up doing with the mentality that they had in their generation
Mhm.
of, get an education, learn a trade, like build a family. There was a lot more linear life tracking and progression, I think, that the older generations had that
Yes.
the younger generation just doesn't seem to abide by. There are all these alternative high schools. There are a myriad of skills that people try and learn online to kind of circumvent the normal educational progression. So what we tend to see is the younger guys coming in with far fewer life skills,
Hmm.
like nothing or very little to put on a resume. And another big divide is the impact of the screen time and
Mhm.
social media that
Yes.
these kids have grown up on versus what an older person has grown up on. I think it makes them, um, back in the day, if you wanted to be a musician, it was probably because you had some musical talent.
Yes.
Nowadays, so many people come in and they're like, "I wanna be a singer." It's like, "Can you sing?" Well, like, "Well, no, but, I'm on SoundCloud."
Right.
And I'm like, "Well, that's probably not the best career to try and attach to."
Are we trying to support ourselves? What's the goal
Yeah,
here?
I don't think it's as realistic as the older generations once were, and that, leads to struggles and an exercise in humility when you're trying to talk to someone to get a get well job at Starbucks,
Yes.
and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, like, Starbucks, I don't know about that. I'm a rapper," you know? But I love them both equally. I love working with the young guys because I see myself in a lot of them, and there's a level of, like, imprinting and,
Mhm.
motivating and, leadership and modeling that I get to do.
Yes.
And then there's a less challenging, usually, relationship that we get to build with some of these older guys who are like, I have figured out so many things in my life and I've accomplished so much, but I cannot figure out this one piece, which is why do I keep getting loaded and blowing up my life? And I love my daughters, but not enough to make me stop doing drugs and blah blah
Yes.
blah. And so I think working with both cases, I get a lot out of because there's so much I learned from those older clients,
Yes.
and there's like such a benefit that I feel in being able to be a role model and a motivator to the younger generation of like, well, I can't get a job at Starbucks. I'm like, when I first moved to LA, I was working 40 hours a week at a dog daycare place to put myself through school and
Right.
to afford to live. Like,
Yes.
if I can do it, like you can do it too.
Yes.
This is what the path looks like.
It's
Um,
it's a it's a it's a bridge. It
yeah.
doesn't have to be forever, but you have to start somewhere and start just building the discipline to show up every day and be consistent.
Yeah, and to be part of like a team of people who,
Yes.
are varying backgrounds and, you might meet someone there who you connect with and I think it's really important for guys in early recovery to find as many other communities as they possibly can
Yes.
to be a part of. So it's not just a small world of like, well, I've got the guys in the house. It's like,
Right.
well, what about meeting people at the gym? I'm
That's
sure
right.
they're healthy and they're motivated like you are at your gym. Like, what about, at work where there are other people who are getting an education or putting themselves like there's so many other pockets of civilization to tap into in a healthy way in recovery
Absolutely.
that, the more that we can push dudes to go out and experience,
The
the
better.
the better they are and the more they get from it. Yeah.
That totally makes sense. You wanna try to be well-rounded, I mean, for
Mhm.
everybody, right? Are there and you kinda started speaking to this, a little bit already. Are there particular pressures that young men face right now, socially, culturally, online, that might make recovery for them harder?
Wildly. Yeah, why
I
and
had that feeling.
I'm so grateful I didn't grow up in the, um
Now.
yeah, like,
Mhm.
when I was growing up, it was the internet took 4 minutes to connect to, and then
Yeah, I'm 41, so I
yeah.
too remember
You
that.
remember dial-up,
I do. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that was exciting.
AOL and
Doo-doo.
Netscape and yeah.
Then it would disconnect, and then you
Uh-huh.
have to reload, and
Yep,
yeah.
yeah.
was a pain in the ass.
It was a unique experience. And again, I'm so grateful that I kind of bridged the gap between like lack of technology, or at least technology in everybody's hands and accessible in everybody's homes, to where we are now, where it's just, hyper technologic. There are so many unique pressures that young men, and I'm sure women as well, are experiencing, but I can speak more to
Mm-hmm.
the male perspective
Mm-hmm.
from every young person has a worldview that is twofold. It is what
Mm.
they experience and encounter in daily life,
Mm-hmm.
which unfortunately for a lot of drug addicts is pretty small.
Yes.
So that's half of their lens, and the other half of their lens is whatever the phone is feeding them. It
Correct.
is whatever their algorithm has determined they will interact with. It is whatever is trending, and so I think on the one hand, as we were just talking, there's like this big, beautiful, wonderful world out there that they have horse blinders onto, because
Mm.
they kind of just interact with their family, their friends, that their smaller sort of world that they have. And then the broader one is one that is full of fear mongering and clickbaiting and
Propagandizing.
propagandizing. Yeah, like advertising for throughout human history has been, you are not enough,
Right.
but this will make you enough.
That's how you sell it.
You do not do this well, but this will teach you how to do this well. And I think young men, especially because there's that attitude in our society of like, you got to get out and you got to make something for yourself, and you have to earn and build a family and provide. And there are a lot of shortcuts that young men today, even, men my age or older, see on the internet, and they're like, well, I'm supposed to be this person and this will help me get there quicker.
Right.
They're like, I'm going to start a drop shipping empire. I'm going to get into crypto. Like, there are all these weird sort of get rich quick or get
Yes.
rich easy
Mhm.
sort of things that I think men fall victim to nowadays.
A lot of distractions.
The looks maxing
Oh my
and
gosh.
peptide anabolic, like biohacking wave that a lot of people are on right now is like,
And especially for the younger guys,
yeah,
right? I mean, I think they're being affected by that in a way that's
totally.
maybe more intense than ever. I mean, I think there's always been societal pressure, of course, for people in general to be a certain weight and look a certain way, but
Mhm.
this whole like looks maxing thing and the open drug use, the
Yeah,
steroids
yeah.
and the all of that seems really intense.
It used to be, the guys at the local Gold's Gym had access to and used these things.
Right.
Now it's
It's
everybody,
mainstream.
everybody on the internet who can reach out to a vendor in China can have access to things that will make you skinnier, will make your jaw look better, make your skin look better. Like, it is a heck of a time to be uh maturing and coming into your own and trying to
Yes.
figure out who you are
Yes.
without listening to all of that noise. And I would say it's kind of half and half in the young men that we have from like 18 to 25, where half of them are so bought into this, like, if you're not building a following on social media, if you're not looks maxing, if you're not doing peptides and like doing all these things, like, you're missing out. And the
Wow.
other half is like, I think you guys are the ones who are kind of missing out, because like, you're so consumed with the world that exists on your phone,
Right.
and you're missing out on all the things that are going on outside. And it's interesting to see the split between the guys who are so obsessed with that online that atmosphere and that world that exists,
Yes.
who are also just kind of missing out on everything else that's going on around them. Um,
It's really easy, I think, for everyone, like with the whole algorithm situation, to just have a tunnel vision and a very specific, limited world view because you're just getting fed whatever you interact with, and it
yeah,
just keeps coming.
confirmation bias.
Yes.
If you hate Mondays, like, you're gonna get a lot of Garfield,
Yeah,
and then
right.
you're gonna be like, wow, everybody hates Mondays too. And you're right, it's that confirmation bias of if I'm only experiencing what my phone is feeding me, I'm gonna like start to warp myself into believing that the world is one way, and I'm gonna forget about experiencing what it actually is like in the other way. And The guys who can balance both in a healthy way, I feel, have the most success in early recovery. The ones who are way too consumed with what's going on their phones tend to miss out on the experience that's in front of them, and the ones who are, running around trying to be in the center of everything and experience everything that's going on, I think they miss out a little bit on the introspection
Hmm.
and the serenity that can come along with taking a moment to sit in quiet and
By yourself.
do some inventory. And so yeah, there's really unique stresses and challenges going on for young men in society in general, and especially with trying to get sober. Like when I was a kid, it was so hard to find someone to like sell me drugs and alcohol,
I know.
but now you can go on Snapchat. Like these kids are getting
It's
drugs on
just
Snapchat.
this that's what it takes to do it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I would have survived very long nowadays.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm grateful that I was an adolescent at a time where you had to know someone,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
There was
You had to
that
memorize their home phone number and
there was a barrier to entry
yeah.
that made it pretty hard
Mhm.
because not you had to know someone who was, like 25 that was willing to, interact with you and your friends.
Sure.
I mean, there were all of these steps involved. It's not just like you go on your phone and boop, 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 like you got
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And then pre-fentanyl, obviously, and just, I mean, it was totally, totally, totally different world than it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
now.
People like when I was growing up, there was like one or two people that I heard of that had overdosed on drugs where I'm from.
Right.
That
Oh,
just the number of people I could list off the top of my head that graduated like a couple of years before me or a couple of years after me, I could probably name 25 people who are dead from drugs.
I'm going to share this and then we'll take a quick break and we'll come right back. There was a young woman who reached out to me she's in her early 20s. She'd been sober for about 6 months or so, and then she relapsed
Mm.
and she disappeared for a little while. And then she reached back out to me when she was trying to get sober again. And I picked her up, and it was like, it was her first day sober.
Mhm.
She had partied the night before. And, again, I was an adolescent at a time where the world was a very different place. And it's like for you to overdose, you would have to do a lot,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd have to be Nikki Sixx, like.
And she told me this story that I'm never going to forget it because it was just, it gives me the chills right now. She told me when I was out last night and, we were doing coke, okay, I made sure that my friend did it first so that if she died, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, you have to wait.
And
Like one person does it and then you all kind of wait. And you're like,
to imagine that that's the tone of the party when you're in that I cannot even imagine
no.
that. And also to be in that space where you're like, well, she might die.
Mhm.
I hope she doesn't,
Sure.
but is so unbelievably dark.
Yeah.
And that is nuts, right?
During my last relapse, there was a period of time where we picked up a bad batch, and these were like 5 milligram oxys, and I overdosed and died on a quarter of a 5 milligram. What I thought was like a five. I did just a little bit, a quarter of this, and I had to get Narcan, and it's
It does not take much, and that's what makes it so unpredictable and dangerous
Yeah.
and scary,
Yeah.
right? So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Sometimes another stay in residential treatment is not always the answer. If you or your loved one have already tried more than once, it might be time to try a different approach. Phoenix Transformative is discreet, bespoke, one-on-one at-home support tailored specifically to your family's unique needs. We coordinate and manage all clinical care so you don't have to. Please text 310-922-1381 for a free consultation today. And we're back. Okay, so Connor, at Eric's house, how do you build real trust and accountability among a house full of young guys who are all still learning who they are sober?
The trust and accountability, I think, comes from there are multiple mechanisms for that to occur. Our structure is such that we are not a behavioral modification house that has
Okay.
tons of punitive measures to lead to accountability. I have witnessed over the years lots of guys going to behavioral mod places,
I've heard some stories.
towing the line for a year, getting their year, doing great, moving out on their own, and falling straight on their face.
Yeah.
What we try and do is create an environment that is close to just living sober as we can to sober living. And I think the trust and accountability comes in through really a lot of rapport building that my partner John and I do on a daily basis with guys checking in, making sure that we're staying current on where they're at in their life, where their families are at, where their steps are at. So the guys kind of, when they first come in, they eventually start to figure out like, okay, these guys actually care and they're tapped in. Like I can't really pull the wool over their eyes because they know, they're talking to my folks. They know my sponsor, like all that. And since we don't have those punitive measures, it really has to come from an organic place of these guys believing that we have their best interest at heart and understanding that the only way forward for themselves in their life is through an organic, honest experience that my partner and I just want to see unfold and to see them win. We do not have an ulterior motive of them, forcing them to do chores or write
Right.
words or anything like that. Eventually guys start to understand like, why would I lie to these guys? They're not going to punish me if I tell them the truth.
I
Um,
I I love that so much, and I think, so I've had the privilege of visiting, both of your houses, right? And I got the feeling right away just being in the milieu, with all of the guys there, and you gave me a tour and I got to meet John there. You have a genuine connection and rapport with each one of those young men, and you can't fake that.
no,
And that building that relationship, we're human beings, okay? This is how we're all wired, like from when we're children, we're nurtured through relationships. And it's like, if I can feel like you are genuinely invested in wanting me to win,
mhm,
that uplifts people and they just want to do what you see as being in their best interest and they'll follow that.
totally. And I would say 95% of the people that come into the house respond really well to that.
Yeah.
Even if they come from really gnarly addiction, trauma, abuse, defiance, eventually just seeing like these guys are showing up on a daily basis, they're checking in on a daily basis. They care enough to keep their finger on the pulse. And they're not gonna like, I know sober livings that make you sleep in the park if you don't toe the line. Like they're not
And
gonna
what
make
does
me.
that accomplish? I don't see that being useful, really. Y-
I think back in the day it was a little bit more useful, and now it just like I said, I've seen so many people get that 1 year cake in places like that.
Yeah,
I don't see as many getting a 2 or a 3 or 4 year cake from those experiences.
I I had a client who I was working with one to one, and she relapsed. Okay, that happens,
Sure.
right? And when I showed up there, and obviously she had relapsed, there was alcohol and different paraphernalia everywhere. Um, Her biggest fear was that I was going to judge her, shame her, abandon her.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm not abandoning you. I do care about, of course, your safety, right? So we got to make sure that either you are able to like get back on the horse of sobriety, so to
Sure.
speak, or if you're slipping and sliding and this keeps kind of progressing, I'm going to recommend that we do detox.
Yeah,
I want to
we have to take measures to keep you alive.
refer you to a higher level of care. I'm still here. I'm
Yeah.
not going anywhere. You did not let me down. And she got, in her case, she was able to just get right back on the horse. And she was like, I was so afraid that you were like going to be upset. And I was like, why would I be
Yeah.
upset? This is a disease,
Yeah.
you know?
No, and you understand it, and my partner and I completely,
Right.
we didn't show up to the first day of rehab and stay sober ever since. Like we were retreads. Thank God they don't shoot their wounded around here.
That's right.
But yeah, that level of like accountability comes from trust and an actual feeling of these people having my best interest at heart.
Yep.
Otherwise it wouldn't work, you know?
No, and something else that I wanted to say before we move on to the next question is another aspect that makes Eric's house in particular really unique, in my opinion, is that both you and your partner, who are the owners, show up to work every day
Yeah.
and you're hands on and like boots on the ground.
Totally.
And I've visited a lot of different sober livings where the owner or owners live elsewhere. They've delegated, the management of the house. And I'm not saying that those aren't good places, but it's a really different vibe when you have the ownership participating on a daily business, on a daily basis. And I really have a soft spot for those specific type of services. As someone who would refer clients to you, it makes me a lot more comfortable doing business with you because I know whoever I send, they're getting you and John,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
And that's, the brand is not John and myself, but we every day go in and try and make sure that the culture embodies what we stand for, the way that we believe recovery works and applies, and the principles that will lead you to long-term satisfaction and success. And luckily we had role models who did the same thing. Robbie Patrick with Blackburn, like he's been doing this for 14 years. And
Yeah.
I'm sure he could still tell you the name of every dude in his 52 beds that he has.
I think so.
And there were enough people like that who, again, it like seems counterintuitive why like this one sober living community, Blackburn, which I think is probably the most successful for helping men in maybe the United States.
Great reputation.
Why that works so much better than this place that costs $30,000 a month and says that they have yoga and organic food and blah blah blah. It's like it's because these people care and they show up and because they're about it.
Yeah,
And
that's it. Like in my business too, I am the case manager.
yeah,
I only work with 4 individual clients, women and girls, ages 13 and up at a time. I'm on site, present. I've got my hands in every one of those clients' journeys, and I have a small team of coaches that work with me, but I'm not hands off. I'm like, it gives me purpose and I feel very fulfilled
way more
doing this work.
Yeah. Way more.
So
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. What does Brotherhood look like at Eric's house day to day? Is it structured or does it happen more organically?
I would say the loose the small amount of structure that we have is what's necessary for just safety and accountability on a daily basis. So starting with morning wake ups, everybody's boots on the ground by 9 a.m.
Okay.
And the first thing the guys are doing is they're doing their chore. That little bit of structure in the morning where there is a wake up time,
Yes.
like we're not 6:30, but everyone's got to be out of bed by 9. And eventually,
That's very reasonable.
and most guys are usually up before that. But for the guys who are like would sleep until 2,
right.
like this is our happy medium.
Yep. Yeah. It gets them up, gets them out.
Yeah, and it's reasonable in like an interview with a guy where you're like, well, we have wake up time. If I told him it was 6 a.m., I would lose some of those clients.
Yeah.
But
that's early for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, we try and meet guys where they're at, and
Yeah.
and we are very comfortable with that being a very reasonable last call wake up.
Yeah.
And after that, guys are doing a chore where it's like, is this like keeping the house spick and span? Not really, like most guys aren't super good at vacuuming, but
Newsflash.
sure, but it does get them. The first thing they're doing in the morning is participating in a community
Yes.
effort of we're all doing something to make this a better environment for each other.
Shared mission.
Exactly. It's not just me who enjoys having a clean carpet. It's everyone who gets to enjoy that.
That's
So
right.
that small bit of
They're
structure.
contributing.
Yeah.
And it's like a steam building.
Everyone's pulling their own weight and chipping in their own way. So that small bit of structure in the morning, we think kind of orients guys to begin to operate and go about their day while they're thinking about how they can benefit other people and not just themselves. You're asking about structure versus organic.
Yeah.
I have been in the places where they're like, we're going on a beach walk this morning. And everybody in the house is like, I don't want to go on a beach walk. That
Right.
sucks.
Right.
Well, it's like, this is what we're doing. I promised your parents we're going to do this.
You're going, whether you want to or not.
Exactly. And everyone's just like, nobody wants to be there. It's not a good time. And the the bit of community building that is done is in us versus them.
Right.
These people are making us do these things, but we don't want to do it. And that oppositional dynamic, we never wanted. So we don't have anything like that. The things that we have seen be effective and work are the organic experiences that guys, like last night, I had 3 dudes reach out to me who are like, hey, we want to go see a movie together. It starts a little bit late. Is it okay if we're late for curfew? I'm like, hey, you guys want to go to a movie together? For sure.
Right.
And it came from them, like
It's a group outing.
yeah, they
They
decided
wanted to do it.
they wanted to do it. When a guy's like, we try and stimulate this a little bit. I'll just say on Sundays we have a mandatory house meeting.
Okay.
Talk about steps, where guys are at, house issues, that whole thing. Where John and I do try and put in an emphasis on, what are you guys trying to do in the upcoming week? Is there a meeting you want to check out? Because someone's like, yeah, I wanted to go to this West Hollywood meeting. Hopefully there are a couple of guys in the house that we can say, like, why don't you guys go together? Or, hey, I like playing basketball and I haven't shot around in a while. Does anyone want to do that? So the structure of the wake up time, the mandatory house meeting, curfew, like that provides accountability and stability for guys to understand how the the natural rhythm of the house unfolds. And then outside of that, the most important, valuable community building happens organically.
Yeah.
And there's a way to do that in a supportive, for John and I, where we're not like, hey, we're proposing a whole lot of stuff. But if guys come to me and they're like, we want to all go see the premiere of this movie in IMAX. Would the house pay for it? Like, absolutely.
Right.
But am I going to force them to go see a movie in IMAX because, like, I want to tell their parents that we had this activity this month? Like, no.
It doesn't work.
No, and it's not sustainable. And because of that, because we do put an emphasis on stimulating and supporting organic community building, like, guys leave our houses as friends. They don't leave our house like, I'm hoping never to talk to any of us ever again. They leave the house as friends.
You're building something that's long term because it's organic, and when that's the culture that you create, which very clearly is at Eric's house. It sounds like, and I'm going off of, again, the man who I just spoke to, who I know was at Eric's house for 5 months. This is long-term change.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just their stay with you. And that's
totally.
like, that's ideal, right?
Yeah. And that's a guy who we gave him his 1-year cake, his 2-year cake, his 3-year cake. We
Exactly.
are lucky enough to be still in these guys' lives because they don't leave and think like, I never want to hear from that person ever again.
Right.
Like, what a terrible experience. Guys are like, that was awesome. I can't wait to, like, I'm probably going to be at that dude's wedding. I'm probably going to be there when his baby is born.
Right.
And that's what I saw Robbie do. That's what I saw Ian do. Like, and that's what we wanted,
Yeah. It's that like lifelong alumni community, which is incredible.
For sure. Yeah. And it eventually becomes your best referral source.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Just like the guy I talked to.
Exactly.
He was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Eric's house. I was like, okay, I'm visiting there soon. A lot of young men struggle to ask for help or be vulnerable with other men. How do you help to create a culture where that's more normal?
I think the most impactful examples I have of that is in doing it myself.
Okay.
When I am in a house meeting with the community and I share with them
Right.
struggles that I've been having or a piece of my history that has come up that's been painful lately, it opens the door for the other guys to do the same thing. We have countless guys who come in and they're like, well, I just don't really trust people like that, or I don't really connect with guys like that, and blah, 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 or like, why should I trust you?
Yes.
And the more that I can and be an example of vulnerability as someone who is, 6'2", 230 pounds,
it helps.
Tattoos, and I don't look the most approachable, the more I think I'm able to do that, I've seen other guys start to become curious at first, and then start to have an experience with doing it themselves. And
Makes sense.
Like, that's probably the largest impact that I have, is being able to do it myself. And then after that, it's like really, truly creating a community where guys don't feel judged.
Right.
Like you were saying about your client, where it's like, I've pulled dudes out of gnarly situations. I've had guys walk through some tough stuff
Yeah.
with us at the house, but
It happens.
I've never had a guy bring something up where I'm like, whoa, dude, that's kind of, I don't respond that way. And
Right.
I think
Well, you can handle it and they can feel that.
and usually I've done worse,
That that's the thing.
yeah.
Right? When that
Yeah.
happened with my client and she was like, "Okay." She was like relieved. And I was like, "So now where's the other stuff?"
Sure. Yeah. You're like, I know you got a stash. Yeah.
And she was like, "Wait, what?"
Uh-huh.
Like she thought we were in the clear, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
I was like, if we're gonna do this, right, we have to be honest with each other. And this isn't this again, this is not a judgment thing. And I'm not gonna make you do anything that you don't want to do. If you're not ready,
Mhm.
that's okay. But you have to tell me the truth. If I need to know the truth.
Yeah.
And then all the other stuff came out, right?
That
Because I've lived it.
and that's I used to go see a therapist, and I had a girlfriend, and I would tell her like, yeah, I didn't really tell her this, I didn't really tell her that. And she's like, why would you pay somebody who can't tell anyone else and lie to them? Like, why would you do that?
I did it.
Me too.
It made me feel
I wanted my
good.
therapist to think I was doing great, but I was falling apart on the inside, and they're like, you're not getting anything out of it. And I do think the guys
Oh.
start to have an experience when they do see John and I on a daily basis. They hear our stories, they see us being able to be compassionate and vulnerable and all of those things. And it's like dipping your toe in the water at first. Like, I'm gonna tell these guys just a little bit. And
You
then
self-disclose.
yeah, just
Yeah.
and I'm gonna start with something small,
In
a
an
morsel.
appropriate, you gauge it.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of an easier, more authentic way to help someone else feel comfortable to open up. I mean, if you open up a little bit, they're like, "Oh, okay." I mean, this is human nature. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how vulnerability works.
Sure.
Like if I'm keeping all my cards to my chest and I'm like, "I'm perfect. I just came out of the box like
Yeah,
this. I have
yeah.
all my shit together." That's scary.
Yeah.
If I can say I had a client who was very dysregulated. I work with a lot of very acute mental health. This poor young woman, was coming out of psychosis. She still had some psychotic features. She peed her pants in front of me in broad daylight in the parking lot when I picked her up, right? I was totally unfazed and I was like, "Can I tell you how many times that's happened to me?"
Yeah.
She just started dying
Uh-huh.
laughing, right? And I was like, "We're going to go to Ross
Mhm.
across the street, get you some new
Yeah.
clothes right now. All good. Don't worry about it." Right? But it's like, if you don't do that, why are they going to feel comfortable opening up? They're not going to.
No. Yeah, I think there's always a way to respond with compassion and love.
Yes.
And it's the old sponsor thing where like you tell your sponsor something like shameful that you did, and he's
Right.
like, "Oh, I did way worse,"
Always.
And then you're like, "Whoa, I can tell this dude anything."
Yeah, right. This guy's crazy.
Yeah.
So many guys, I'm guessing, probably, right, come in not knowing really. Let me say this again. Many guys come in not really knowing who they are without substances, right? Without drugs, without alcohol. How do you help someone rebuild their identity?
Our big go-to is we want you to build a life that you want to stay sober for.
Mm,
So what does that look like? It's something that I realized when I was younger was because of my addiction and my mental health issues, I didn't have an attachment to a version of myself that existed in the future. I had momentary, moment to moment Connor that existed,
hmm
but a Connor that existed an hour from now, or a Connor that existed a week, a month, a year, like no attachment to that.
Right.
And I think a lot of guys come in and they don't even realize that that's what's been taking place.
Mm,
They do live hour to hour. How am I going to get my fix? How am I going to get my way? How am I going to, keep being able to live the way that I want to live?
Mhm.
And I think in slowing guys down and getting them to attach to a version of them that exists in the future, where today you are sweaty and you don't look good and you're still going through withdrawal, like all
it's
that
rough.
stuff. Like,
Yeah, it's rough when you first come in.
what about the version of you that exists a week from now, where you're not going to be
Mm.
feeling this crappy, where you're gonna like? What about the version of you that exists a month from now? Like, what do you want that person to look like? Like, do you want him to be like in good shape, and do you want him to be able to like look the world in the eye, and do you want him to have serenity and peace, and do you want to work steps so that you can go anywhere in this world and not have to keep checking over your shoulder because of the people that you like? Do you want a version of that like that? How does that sound to you?
Right.
So starting to get guys to be able to attach to that version of them that exists in the future, and then to wonder like, what does that person look like? What does he do to get there? Because there is eventually a picture that they can paint of how I look, how I feel, how people experience me, what my life looks like. And they're like, how do I get there? It's like, here are the things that we got to start doing on a daily basis to get to be that version of yourself. And usually, like I did when I first got sober, like I sold myself short.
Right.
I was like, I'll maybe be capable of this, but like completely transcended that, because when you do start buying in on a daily basis to self-improvement and introspection and
Yes.
accountability and living the principles, like it just kind of compounds over time.
Mm-hmm.
Where when I was in rehab, I did this exercise where I had 6 areas of my life that I wanted to improve on.
Okay.
I had short term, medium term, and long term.
Wow.
Which was like, how do I know when I'm starting to get there? How do I know when it's starting to work?
Mm.
And what is like it has finally worked?
Wow.
And those like 6 areas of like it has worked and this is my life beyond my wildest dreams are like sold myself way short because I
Right.
just stuck to it and I kept doing it. So I think in guys not having an identity outside of the coping mechanisms and the
Yes.
maladaptive behaviors that they
Mm-hmm.
have,
Mm-hmm.
just starting to get guys to be curious about like, what does the version of me who's standing on a stage taking a cake that my friends and family gave me because I didn't quit on myself over the last year, what does that look like, you know? And what would it be
Wow.
like if I didn't give up on myself? That has been the most powerful exercise that I've found in getting guys to start to have an experience with, who do I want to be when I'm not loaded?
Hmm. Yeah, visualization is really powerful, and I find that doing that process with someone else who can see the road that you can't
Mhm.
see, now it's like exponential. That growth compounds
And in us
quickly.
being able to tell our clients like, I used to pee my pants all the time,
Right?
or hey,
She looked at me like, "Wait, what did you say?"
yeah,
Right? I was just
but they see us so polished and
Of
like
course.
an impossibility to
Right.
achieve. I'm like, no, dude, like I was worse when I came in than
Right.
you were. Like, you still have this and that, and like you're starting from a position of strength
Absolutely.
compared to where someone like other people start from.
Yes.
And I think really getting guys to buy into that of, you know, daily action leads to weekly improvement, which leads to lifelong satisfaction is it's a tough exercise, but luckily enough of our clients are sick of the way that they were living and the way that their
Yes.
life was heading that
Yes.
they start like, if they're not willing to really try, like they're at least curious about it, and they'll remain open-minded until we can convince them or something starts to shift and happen of, if you're miserable and sober, one of those things is going to change. You're going to lose your sobriety or you're going to
Yes.
work on the misery.
Yes.
And most of the time guys start to work on the misery before they lose their sobriety.
Which, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a couple more questions here. Okay, this is a good one. What role does mentorship or having older, sober men around play for the younger men in the milieu?
Um, it is wonderfully reflexive,
Mm.
where the young guys can look up to older guys who have maybe figured out more about their uh personal like family goals, like wow, this guy's been married, this guy's got a kid, this guy has a dog, whatever it is, like
Mhm.
that person has lived an aspect of something that I am interested in and I want for myself one day. This person, we had an engineer for Microsoft who was living
Oh,
in the
wow.
house for a really long time. He was with the guys,
Yeah.
and he's a high earner, a
Yeah.
very intelligent man who could not stop drinking for years and years, could not stop drinking. And the younger guys would go to him for like, hey, what do you think about this resume? Or
Aw.
and they're both in the same place with their addictions. Like
Yes. Yes.
the Microsoft dude, like was probably worse at staying sober than some of these young guys were,
That's right.
but he had other achievements that these guys, they're like, you know, this, he had 3 sons and people would ask him about being a dad.
Wow.
And there were certain things about like that side of life that he had figured out that guys could go to and rely on and look up to and hope to emulate and think like, maybe that could be me someday. And I think, you know, in the inverse, the older gentleman got a lot out of being a mentor and a role model,
Right.
because at home his wife was mad, his
Yes.
kids were disappointed in him,
Yes.
and he started to get more esteem and value out of like, I'm still this person who people look up to and are proud of, and like all of that. So I think there's a cool, at least in a client to client way,
Yes.
where the older guys get a lot out of being a mentor and like
Yes.
learning. Like this guy came in and he was not in very good shape, and he
Sure.
had shaky legs. He couldn't stop drinking.
Right.
And when he left, he was like on all these peptides and he was feeling great and he was
He's
ripped
all
and
bulked out.
yeah, you like, so like he learned from the younger guys about like,
He started a fitness journey.
yeah, and like the looks maxing
Wow.
thing, he was
Rubbed
able,
off on him.
yeah, but he was able to adopt it in a healthy way of
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
you know, like as a
More
well-adjusted
perspective.
45-year-old could.
Yeah, yes. Right. Instead of an 18-year-old.
But it's really cool how like the young guys get something out of the older gentlemen, and the older guys really get something out of being an example and a figure of maybe it's not quite paternal, but like maybe an older brother.
Yeah.
And you know, to your point earlier about the gentleman who you met at the conference, like
Yes.
that dude can come back to our house any day of the week, sit down in the kitchen or in the living room and connect with guys, and guys will ask him questions, and like he gets to be an example of someone in the community of like, I care about you here. I might not know
Yes.
you, but I came from where you come from.
That's right.
And I care enough about this house and this process and everything that I come back and be able to mentor you guys and sponsor you guys and give guys to rides to meetings, and you know, come back in and remember what the beginning of his journey looked like, and continue to have that perspective of, you know, the step one experience and the where I started from, that humility that we need, as alcoholics need to hold on to. So
Absolutely.
I think it's just this beautiful, like, you know, symbiotic relationship that doesn't exist in most walks of society, you know?
No, you have both ends of the spectrum giving to each other, right? You know, so the younger guys have certain things that they can offer to the older guys and vice versa.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, that's what you want.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. So, what would you like people to know about Eric's house? And we'll kind of close there. I know we covered a lot of ground, but just in case there's anything else, I wanted to give you that.
I want people to know that we are a program that does not promise anything other than our best effort
Mm-hmm.
and an opportunity to be part of a brotherhood and a community of people. I want people to know that I never take a phone call with a family and say like, yeah, this is gonna be easy. I know how to solve this. What I say is like, you know, I'm not sure how this is gonna go, but I promise you, like, I will not be the person that drops the ball
Mm-hmm.
or is the one that doesn't live up to his end of the bargain.
Mm-hmm.
My business partner and I have built our reputation and our company on that promise to under promise and over deliver.
Yes.
And recovery is possible for anybody who wants to be a part of it. It truly is. It's the greatest thing that I've ever done. You know, in an alternate universe, like I'm either in the Navy or I'm still working in finance.
Right.
And I'm just so happy and so blessed that my life unfolded the way that it did. And you know, it's the best thing about me, and I love being able to connect with people like you and like meet so many people who I would never, you know, we might see each other at a
Yeah.
meeting or something like that,
Right.
but the relationships it has afforded me and the experience has been, you know, it's everything to me. And yeah, I just love the work that we do, and the, you know, the times like this where on a Friday morning I wake up and I get to go hang out with you. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Connor, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing the work you and your team are doing at Eric's house. I really appreciate the perspective that you bring on what it actually takes to guide young men through early recovery, which is amazing, and the way you've built something so personal out of Eric's memory. For anyone listening who would like to learn more about Eric's House Recovery or reach out about availability or support for a loved one, where can they find you?
You can find us online at www.ericshouserecovery.com. That's the website you can get our contact information on. And other than that, if you're on the west side and you're looking to hit a meeting, reach out to Jennique and she'll give you my phone number.
Yes, exactly. And thank you to everyone listening to Clinical Conversations. To learn more about Phoenix Transformative and the work that we do supporting women and girls 13 and up navigating behavioral health challenges and life transitions, please visit phoenixtransformative.com or follow us on Instagram at Phoenix Transformative. Until next time, bye.